The Pat O'Hara Show is sponsored by the River Shack Tavern, 3449 River Road in Jefferson.
Welcome to the Pat O'Hara Show here at the River Shack Tavern. I'm your host, Brandon Rizzuto, alongside head coach Pat O'Hara. And coach, I'm going to be the first to say it, and I'll say it again. Congratulations on your first win as the head coach of the New Orleans VooDoo.
Yeah, it felt good. Our guys, really had to rally through some injuries during the game, and our guys really played hard, and it was a loud environment, and we were able to come away with a win.
Talk about the heart and overall team effort, like you just mentioned, to get that win.
It was. It's a process like we talked about in the last week. Our team is learning how to play arena football and learning how to play our brand of football. And like I said, we faced some adversity in that game. We were able to come through and get a good win against a very good opponent.
Talk about the ability to force turnovers on defense and not turn the ball over on offense. Obviously keys to win.
That was huge. We had, right now we're +7, which is number 2 in the league in turnover margin. That's tremendous, and it's in large part to our defense the other night getting a lot of takeaways, and we didn't give the ball up. We faced some adversity, but we're able to continue to move the ball down the field and take care of the ball, and we were able to come away with that win. So that was big.
Chemistry, obviously a big part in that game, and you have a lot of good leaders in the locker room.
It's emerging. You've got guys like Alvin Ray and Marlon Favorite, but really there's a number of guys that are stepping up as leaders on our team. And as we grow as a team, the chemistry grows, and those are the things you look for, especially in an 18-game season. That process continues.
Talk about one guy you did not mention there, your quarterback, Kurt Rocco, an outstanding game for him.
Kurt's been playing at a high level, really been staying in there. The other night took a lot of shots. We didn't protect as well as we had in the past, and he stood in there in a harsh environment and broke a couple of records. He's playing at a high level. I think he's leading the league right now, and total offense per game and on the year. So he's really playing at a high level.
There seems to be a going trend that that first offensive series for the VooDoo is a little shaky, but once that one's over, it's all downhill from there.
Boy, we came out on offense and we got stopped. I mean, we had 4 or 5 plays and got sacked and balls knocked down. It was ugly. But what I liked is the way we persevered through it, and we were able to battle back from that adversity. Those are things we talked about, is that having a short memory, keep playing, and we were able to do that.
Talk about short memory and talk about guys like Josh Bush, who stepped up in that game. You needed him on defense with a few injuries there.
We suited up only 3 DBs and Alvin, which is like a DB, Jack linebacker. So when one of those guys goes down, Josh is our two-way player. Josh stepped in, did a wonderful job at the cornerback position, and so that was huge.
Coach, just talk about going into Utah, just hostile environment and actually getting it done.
Yeah, long trip, loud environment. It's elevation. After the first series, our guys were really blowing hard, through their lungs with that elevation. But it really seemed like as the game went on, we actually showed what kind of shape we were in, because I thought that Utah got a little tired, and we maintained.
Coach, once again, congratulations on the win.
Thanks, Brandon.
Stay tuned. We're going to have more of the Coach Pat O'Hara Show here at the River Shack. We're going to have Kurt Rocco on in the next segment. Please stay tuned for that. Welcome back to the Pat O'Hara Show here at the River Shack Tavern. I'm your host, Brandon Rizzuto, and stepping in for Pat this segment is VooDoo quarterback Kurt Rocco. And Kurt, welcome to the show, my friend.
Good, thanks for having me.
Kurt, just looking at this past game against Utah, a great game. Talk about the game itself and how proud you were of your team to overcome some adversity.
Starting off, great job by the defense. Can't ask for anything better. 7 turnovers. Offensively, we need to come out of the gate a little better. Every time I write some game notes, post-game notes, we start off a little inconsistent on our first series, so that's one thing we need to work on offensively. you can't ask for anything better for the defense. 7 turnovers, a forced fumble, some picks in the red zone, stuff like that. I mean, you get turnovers, the offense is got to go down the field and score, and we got to win the game.
Kurt, one thing that we take away from that game is that you took a beating back there. You took some shots. Talk about getting up play after play and going back at it.
It was hard. It was difficult. Protection wasn't so bad as everyone may have thought it would be. There were some times where I should have got out of the pocket or threw the ball away a little faster, but we need to protect a little better. The shots were shots. I'm going to get hit. People are going to try to take shots at the quarterback, and that's what's going to happen. So I got back up, and we just kept rolling.
Did the altitude affect you guys in the game?
I think it was a little bit in the very first couple series actually. We were in the huddle. We had some heavy breathing going on, and I remember Greg Ellington, I remember him in the huddle one time saying, "Come on guys, we got to work through this."
Talk about just your guys and your receivers. Your receivers played an outstanding game. You mentioned Greg. Just talk about Greg's role in the game.
He played a huge role. He ended up getting hurt kind of midway through the game there, and he was in some pain and he wanted to come out, but coach told him he just got to fight through it. He's a big, tall receiver, good receiver to throw down the field to. LJ played real well. He had those 3 touchdowns. Bush, he's just our fast little speedy guy who can get down the field and make plays.
I don't know if you had a chance to see it on film, but there was that one catch that LJ made that got called back. That was an outstanding catch, and it seems like the receiving corps has been making those catches all season long.
Yeah, they have been. I've been getting, I trust them. I throw the ball up to them. They're tall. LJ and Greg, they're big, tall receivers, so if I can throw the ball up to them and trust them, they're going to up and get it.
Kurt, last year in Cleveland, you had 3 games where you passed for over 300 yards. Your first 3 games here with the VooDoo, all over 300 yards. Just talk about the system you're in. It's allowing you to blossom.
I give that credit to Coach O'Hara. He's put me in a system, and he's trusted me to make plays and kind of work on my own. And he's got a great system for the quarterbacks. And I believe with his style of offense, most quarterbacks will be passing over 300 yards and scoring a lot of touchdowns.
Starting off 0-2, not the ideal situation you would like, but you saw this in camp with these guys, and you're one of the teammates. I mean, you see how they just come together, and the chemistry is really there. Talk about that and how the fans are involved. Should be involved with that.
The chemistry is definitely there. I was actually surprised throughout camp. We really didn't have any fights going on like you typically would, but everyone was kind of joking around with each other. We were all hanging out and having a good time. The chemistry was there from the get-go, and it has been since. The fans have been great. Our Fan Fest was amazing. People coming up to us, don't even know you, welcome to the city, and hope you enjoy the city type of thing. So they've been really great.
A little bit off the subject of football now. You're a Cleveland guy. You're from the Ohio area.
Yeah.
Best thing about New Orleans so far?
Food, by far. I'm a seafood fanatic, so I can't ask for anything better down here.
Any place in particular you like to go?
Well, I've only been to a few places just when I get outside the resting. I've been to the Acme Oyster House right behind our place, right behind our apartments, so that's the one place I've been to that I've liked so far.
Have you had a chance to have family and friends come down and see you play?
Actually, I've had my girlfriend come down once, so that was exciting. We got to go out and explore the city a little bit, and she got to see a little part of New Orleans, so that was fun.
Looking forward to Friday in the Graveyard. You know the deal. Haven't won at home in the last 12 tries. Looking to end that curse.
Yeah, we are. It's on NFL Network. We know it's a big game. It's against one of our assistant coaches' old teams, so we got to come out ready to go on NFL Network, ready to play.
Kurt, looking forward to it. Thanks for joining me, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
You're watching The Pat O'Hara Show. Stay tuned for more of The Pat O'Hara Show right here on Cox 4. Welcome back to the Pat O'Hara Show. I'm your host, Brandon Rizzuto, and back in the fold is Pat O'Hara, and Coach, we had Kurt Rocco on just now. Great guy.
He is. He's a great guy. We were lucky to get him in free agency in the offseason, and so far, so good.
One of the things we talked about with him last year in Cleveland, he only had 3 games of over 300 yards passing. His first 3 with the VooDoo, all over 300 yards.
Yeah, it must be great coaching, right? No, Kurt's second year has really been good to him. You know, he's really taken what he started in Cleveland last year and to the next level. This is what we thought he could do. He's done a tremendous job. We just got to keep it going.
Overlooking the division, and we talk about it every week, the South is a crazy division, very competitive. Tampa Bay getting a great win against Georgia.
Tampa's a good football team, but the division's wide open. It's really wide open, the Southern Division, and we have a great opportunity to do some good things this week. We play Tampa. It's a division game, our first division game. It's an important game to us. It's an important game to Coach Markham, who's with us now on our staff. He used to coach there and won a number of championships there. I used to play for them and coach with them, so a lot of familiarity there.
Has there been more emphasis on this game, knowing that it is Tampa, knowing that you're trying to end a 12-game losing streak at home? Any correlation to where this is a big game for the VooDoo?
I think the focus needs to maintain on it's about what we do and what we need to fix from last week. Obviously, we need to win at home. We know that. We need to win that first one at home. We need to win our division game here, but it's important that we focus in on the details, fix our mistakes from the last couple of weeks, continue to grow as a team with our chemistry and the process of that. Those are the things we need to focus on, with also knowing that we need to win the graveyard, we need to get our fans out there, and we need to perform well on NFL Network this week.
Obviously, we're talking about Tampa Bay right now in the division, but other divisional opponents, Jacksonville, Georgia getting losses, Orlando getting losses as well.
It's really going to be tight. There's so much parity in our league, Brandon, that you've got to be ready to play week in and week out, and I think that's something that we're teaching our guys. We played well in week 1. Week 2, we took a step back. Week 3 against Utah, we got back to where we needed to be. We've got to maintain consistency. Consistency builds trust with the coaches, and so our players need to continue on that road, and we need to continue to teach them as coaches to get them on that path.
Looking further into the VooDoo personnel coming in this game, you got a chance to get a few guys maybe off the IR this week?
Yeah, you know, we've also got a few guys injured, and we may need to pull some guys off of IR. And some guys are available that might be healthy. You may see some new faces this week.
Talk about just, looking back at this past game, Wisham with an injury, a few guys with injuries that may linger on into this week.
We're evaluating that right now. We've got 3 or 4 guys that were questionable right now, and that's something, we got to figure out and get some guys to step up in their place. Every team goes through it. We're no different, so we'll evaluate that process.
Can't say it enough. The folks at TISM and Tulane Institute of Sports Medicine and Patrick Maloney, can't give them enough credit for what they do.
They do an amazing job. Patrick's the best trainer in our league. We're very fortunate to have him and to have Tulane on our backing us.
Coach, just looking further into this game and talking a little bit more about Tampa, not spoiling the final segment, but how big is this game for the VooDoo?
Well, they're all big, Brandon. Obviously, the categories are, it's a division game. It's our first division game, and it's a home game. We've got to win in the graveyard, and it's on NFL Network. Our guys want to come out and perform and play well, especially our Louisiana players. They want to perform well and get that win in the graveyard. So on all those aspects, there's a lot of, high level of wanting to get it done.
You're watching the Pat O'Hara Show here at the River Shack Tavern on Cox 4. Stay tuned for more VooDoo action. Welcome back to the Pat O'Hara Show here on Cox 4 and at the River Shack Tavern located here in Jefferson on River Road. And Coach, final segment of the show, time to talk about Tampa.
Tampa's a good football team, a lot of tradition there, a lot of history with their head coach. Coached with him, I played for him as a player, I've coached against him, played against him on every level. So Dave Ewert's done a great job there. And, a division opponent, very familiar with them. They have an outstanding receiver in Preshay Rodriguez, who's leading our league in receptions and yards in every category, and their quarterback's playing a high level, and their pass rush is getting after the quarterback. So it's going to be a great challenge.
They're coming off of a big win against Jacksonville, their first actually in franchise history. Just talk about riding that emotional high for them and how they could work in favor for the VooDoo.
Well, we'll see. Utah came off a huge win last week against San Jose. I still thought they played very hard against us. I don't know if that's a category that Tampa's in right now. I think Tampa is riding high and comfortable and confident in their situation at 2-1, and they beat 2 good football teams. in Georgia and Jacksonville, and they're both division games. So they're 2 up on division right now, and they're going to come in ready to play, so it's going to be a great challenge.
You mentioned Preche Rodriguez, one of their go-to receivers. Talk about some of the other personnel that Tampa Bay will be bringing to the graveyard this week.
Well, one of the top receivers from last year who's been on injured reserve will probably come off IR this week just for our game. You know, unfortunately, Amari Jackson, he's an outstanding receiver also, and Steve Wasil, their quarterback's playing at a high level, and defensively, they're just really, really sound. So we've got a great challenge this week. To make sure we correct our mistakes from last week and really get in, play in the graveyard, and give the fans what they want, to win.
Talk about Tampa Bay's defensive side of the ball. Obviously, they played really well against Jacksonville. We've been playing at a high level on offense. Something's got to give come Friday night.
Well, it does. I think, you know, like every arena game, Brandon, it comes down to turnovers. You know, turnovers and possessions. And knock on wood, we've done a good job of taking care of the ball here in the turnover margin category, like we talked about earlier. It always comes down to that. And then the kicking game. You know, you've got to take care of the kicking game. We've got to be better there in our coverage. They have a tremendous returner in Lindsey that we've got to make sure on our kickoff coverage we get around and get him down. He's a very good returner. And so if we take care of those aspects, it'll be a great game.
You mentioned special teams, and that's one thing that the VooDoo seem to have struggled with is kickoff and kickoff coverage. Just talk about correcting those mistakes moving forward to Tampa Bay.
Well, kickoff coverage, it's correctable. We've kind of been overrunning our coverage. The hustle's been there, but we've been overrunning our kick. And so with our younger players, it's a smaller field, and sometimes they find themselves sprinting down, all of a sudden their end zone, the ball's going the other way. So we've just got to, you know, get on top of that this week. You know, we've got to do a better job making our PATs. Right now, our PAT percentage is very, very low. We've got to correct that with our kicker.
This Friday is going to be Good Friday in the graveyard. Just talk about how big it is for the fans to come out after we got a big win at Utah, come back home to get a big win here in the graveyard.
I can't think of a better thing to do on Good Friday than to come to a VooDoo game and support your local team and support our team. You know, we've got to get that home win. We're on NFL Network. We want to show the nation that what we have going down here in New Orleans, and we need to get a good crowd in there and fill that place up and get that win in the graveyard.
Coach, once again, congrats on the win last week in Utah, and best of luck against Tampa Bay this week.
Thanks, Brandon.
You've been watching the Pat O'Hara Show. I'm your host, Brandon Rizzuto. We look forward to seeing you in the graveyard this Friday night against the Tampa Bay Storm.